I don't believe in running shoes, Colleen. Why do I need one of those expensive running shoes? And they're so expensive. How do you run without getting tired? How do you deal with your inner voice? We got bored while we're running. What is your secret to make it more enjoyable? Today, I'm with Colleen Pestana. Colleen is a runner, also one of my online clients. I'm always amazed by her performance because she always beats people who are younger than her. How come you can beat literally anyone when it comes to conditioning?
I would say a couple things. Number one is you have to have the right coach. And of course,
Mm.
that's you.
Thank you.
It's key. It is key. I'm very competitive person. You set up our routines, our workouts. You'll tell me some other things that people have done. So I will always try and compete with those other numbers you have. I think just being a competitive person is one of the reasons that I'm able to do that.
What is the characteristics of a competitive person? I'm definitely not a competitive person. I really cannot focus on, oh, I'm competing with someone, or there's a competition here. That interestingly doesn't motivate me. So I just wonder how it motivates you. What's going in your head?
It's more of a challenging myself. For example, in running, if I'm going to run 3 miles, I will always run 3.5 miles. If I'm going to run 5 miles, I'm always going to stretch it, like setting a goal and then pushing myself to go beyond that goal.
As I understand, that's also a habit, like a mental habit. Every time you set a distance, you try to beat it a little bit. And even if you beat it by 10 meters, at the end of
Yes.
the day, you beat it, you stretch it. You also make me realize that what I do most of the time, sometimes I really like to go beyond my limits, but most of the time, I'm trying to be more merciful on myself just because of I had a very self-destructive inner voice. Even if I have a certain score in my mind, when I come close to that score, I don't feel like I should go beyond. If I'm close, but I'm not there yet, it's totally fine for me. At the end of the day, I burn all the calories and I feel satisfied. But when it comes to competition, I think my way is not a good habit. Mine is more like for everyday people, I guess. I like your way. And I think I'm going to push myself to do your way for a while because realize that I'm not doing it for a long time.
I think everyone's different. You find what works for you. If I don't compete with myself that way or with others, then I will feel like I didn't do my best. I didn't push
Mhm.
myself. Running has always been my passion. So especially if it's in that, it's like, well, I can't go back and make that up. But I think it's something that each person is different in terms of the way they look at it and
Yeah.
the way they approach it.
I just want to improve my mental strength a little bit more. I'm very keen to try your way. By the way, I want to ask you, how old are you? How frequently you're training? And do you think your age is a big handicap for running?
You're not supposed to ask women their age,
I
but
know. I know.
but that's okay. I am 62 years old. Is it a handicap? Yes and no. Age comes with wisdom, with age comes comfort, with age comes, you kind of know what you can do and you're happy with what you can do. But also with age comes the body breaks down. I've been dealing, as you know, with back injury, a prolonged back injury, which has gone down to my leg and with sciatica. So yes, it is, but I think it gives you, like you were saying, mental strength.
Hmm.
That's what you gain over time. What I find is you learn with anything, whether it's, working out or whether it's a career, you can always look back and say, I wish I knew then what I know now. And that's where it's helpful because you know what you can do. I never thought about running marathons when I was probably in my best condition to run marathons, when I was younger. And now I look back and say, why didn't I?
I wonder how your training look like. How many days of training? Do you do sprint or do you just go out and run for 40 minutes then come back?
I'm running 3 to 5 days a week, and it depends on where I am and what I have planned and what's going on with work. I usually will set a goal, something that I want to do. I will have my shorter runs, I'll have my longer runs, and then I'll have speed work, and then I'll have a combination of those. And rest is as important to your training and conditioning as the running is. To use like a half marathon or a marathon as an example, if I want to be in that kind of condition, which I want to get back into that kind of condition once I recover from this and can get back to running, I will work my way up to be able to do 10 miles easy. Like I can go out and run 10 miles. But to get there, I start with, 2 miles, a couple of days a week, and then I stretch it to 2.5, and then I'll go to 3, and then maybe I'll go to 4. And I'll do this over like a 2 to 3 week period to get myself back up to where I can have the endurance and then also work on the pace. So once I'll work to get the distance up, then I will start adding the like hill workouts or track workouts where you're doing speed work. That helps with the overall conditioning, endurance, and it helps me get my pace down. I can go a longer distance, shorter period of time. My goal is to get to that 10-mile long run. And from there, I know I can do anything.
I think you just told something very important. Even if you're a very experienced runner, to be able to run a long distance, let's say 10 miles, you do 2 miles for the first week and the second week, and then you stretch it to 2.5 and then 3. And as I understand, after 5, 6 weeks, you are around 8 miles, 7 miles. Is that true?
That's about right. Yeah. Yeah. To get up to that where I can do it comfortably, where you can run it more comfortably.
That's a really good point, because I think not many people know that, or even if know that, they don't implement like that. May I also ask you, why do you run?
I got into running when I was in high school. I had never been a runner. I grew up playing sports. I was in a very sports-oriented family, 3 brothers, 2 sisters. My dad played semi-pro baseball. So we were a very athletic family. I played softball. I played soccer growing up. And then when I got into high school, they didn't have soccer in the fall for girls. I tried out for the cheerleading team, and I didn't make it. The next day at school, I saw cross country and I went to the track. That's how I started running. A great group, a camaraderie. The first time I ran, we did a mile and I thought, okay, I'm done. A mile is distance running. And the next day, they had us doing a mile and a half, and so on and so on. So that's how I got into it. Why I continue with it is because running is something you can do anywhere. You don't need equipment. You can do it anywhere, anytime.
Colleen, I really need your help. I think many people need your help right now. We got bored while we're running. What is your secret to make it more enjoyable?
Run in a place that's scenic. Find trails through the woods, and really just experiencing nature. Where I live, there's a harbor, and I run down at the harbor. I see seals, I see pelicans, but I also do go to areas like a canyon where there's trails. It's just really beautiful. And if you're running through a trail that's kind of like almost like tunnel vision, or if you're running through the woods with trees on a trail, a path, you have this sense of like you're getting somewhere because you're passing along. I mean, to me, I find it so enjoyable. Plus, the other thing is when I run, that's when I solve all my problems, because once you get into your pace and you're going, you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to really think about your form, because you're in your form, and you can think about the things that you're dealing with.
That makes sense, especially for the clarity. I also want to understand, what is that runner's high?
The runner's high is where you just feel totally comfortable. The first mile is always you just kind of have to get going, got to get yourself started. But once I get into after a mile or two, you've got your pace down, you're in the groove, and the endorphins start going. That's a big part of it. The endorphins in the brain. You just become happy, and then your body is just comfortable running, feel like it can go forever. That's the runner's high. It really is. You feel like you could just keep going forever. Then you can't, because eventually you'll hit the wall, which is the opposite of the runner's high. But no, for the most part, that's what the runner's high is. You almost feel like you're flying. You can feel that moment, I do anyway, where when you're running, there's a point in every step that both feet are off the ground, and it's exaggerated in your mind probably when you're really feeling the runner's high, because you just feel like you're flying.
Also, I have some unusual thoughts about running. I don't believe in running shoes, Colleen. You need special shoes to play soccer or basketball. I do understand that, but running is more natural compared to them. Why do I need one of those expensive running shoes? And they're so expensive. Don't you think high-tech shoes cause low-tech feet? I see many people are walking and running or even training barefoot where I live right now. I think they believe that this is beneficial for their feet more. What do you think about that?
Disagree.
All right.
And I know what you're saying, because, and you can see like in the big runners, the big African runners, Kenyan runners. Some of them do run bare feet, right?
Mhm.
But I think the most important thing about good running shoes is to be able to carry you from running from when you're age 14 to still be able to do it when you're age 62.
Mhm.
It's not the feet, it's the rest of the body. There, it's the knees, it's the calves, it's the thighs, it's the hips. So good running shoes allowing you to run longer into life. I think running shoes are more important. Well, obviously soccer, you have to have something for grabbing cleats and whatnot. Basketball, I think they could play barefoot. Running shoes are more important than basketball shoes, for sure. Oh, it's true. It's true. If you go run in like Converse All-Star, right? Or go run
Yeah.
in your basketball shoes, they're heavier. The running shoes are lighter, so they don't add a lot of weight. But the foam and cushioning in them, it saves you.
Can you tell us your running secrets? We want to hear your running secrets. How do you run long distances without getting tired? How do you deal with your inner voice?
That is a good question. If you're going for longer runs, one is you have to make sure that you have like nutrition and things like that. I bought one of those camelbacks to carry on my back with water in it, or I will put some Gatorade in it, or I will have gels keep in my side pocket, which really make a difference to give you some energy. But sometimes you just have to, it goes back to, for me, sometimes I have to set that goal and I'm not going to leave until I hit that goal. And eventually, if you're just not feeling it, you're a little sluggish, your legs feel heavy, you just have to keep that in mind. I'm not leaving here until I do what I came to accomplish.
Mhm.
And sometimes, you just have to deal with the inner voice in the head.
In my hardest moment inside a workout, I'm gonna tell the conversation between me and me.
Okay.
It's eye against eye situation. My inner voice tells me, slow down, your heart rate is high. If you don't stop, something bad will happen. Here is some headache, here is some feel thirsty a little bit. I'm trying to resist, like, no, I will not give up. No, I have to stay in the game, stay in the game, stay in the game. Then, oh, okay, I will slow down. All right. So at some point,
You
it
give.
beats me. I wonder, is there a phrase that you use to deal with that inner voice or not? What is your way?
I don't know that there's a phrase, but a couple things that I think of. There are two things primarily. One is, and this was really enlightening to me, I read, and really it wasn't that long ago. Even the best runners in the world, when they are running, they're not comfortable. They're at a different level than I am, that most runners are, but they're feeling the same thing. So it's natural, deal with it. And the other thing I think of is I read it in Runner magazine about a woman, 103 years old, who was still running. She took the world record for the 100-meter dash. I think about her and I think, you know what? That's my goal. That's what I want to do. Be running when I'm 103 is to be running now. So
When your heart rate is not that high, it's so easy to deal with things. How do you keep your heart rate low during running? Because I think most beginners don't know that, and they think that when they run, it's about you need to learn to deal with that 180 heart rate. And I think that's wrong. It should not be like that. So that's why I want to ask you your another secret.
I do. I wear my running watch and it shows my heart rate, and I do pay attention to it because if you push yourself and you can't sustain 180 heart rate, even 165, you can't sustain that in running. So like 140 is comfortable for me. If I will notice I'm going too fast, I need to, slow down a bit.
Okay, I just want to ask this just because of when people try to make exercise habits, they take an action, they start somewhere, they do their first workout, they do their first running, and they just have no idea about how they should feel. So they try to have the same pace and stick together with the team. As a result of that, they have a terrible experience. And at the end, they say, fuck, running is hard. It is not hard. It's not the right stimulus. What you are experiencing is not normal. And other runners not experiencing the thing that you experience right now. So that's why I just want to ask that question to help them to understand how should they feel during their running session. Last question. Do you have any tips for beginners?
Probably for a beginner, the number one tip would be find someone or a group of people to run with. because it's much easier, it's much more fun, especially starting out when you really don't have the endurance, the stamina. But doing that, and it also keeps you accountable. It will get you out there to do it because, it's like it's always easy to say, oh, I'm not going to run this morning, I'll run this afternoon. And then you don't run this afternoon, I'll run tomorrow. And then tomorrow something comes up and you don't. But if you have someone or a group and you're meeting and you have accountability, you have a commitment to meet them. So that is probably the number one. The other thing that you get from that is you stretch together, then you run, then you stretch at the end. So you kind of develop good habits of running. Secondly, would be you say shoes, have good shoes, or just read up a little bit about running form. And I was taught heel toe, heel toe, heel toe. Concentrate on coming down on your heel to your toes. So, you're like, your foot's doing this, kind of doing this as you run. And then when you pick up speed, you run on your toes, or up a hill, you pump your arms and run on your toes, which will help push you up the hill. The other thing I will say is adding in, I was a just runner. That's all I did. I'm not a gym person, couldn't go to the gym. And then when I got introduced to you for CrossFit and could do it in my garage and just by the weights I needed. And that conditioning, it was, I think the first long run I ran after starting to work out with you, and it was after a year, was a half marathon, finished a half marathon the next day, really feeling it going downstairs. After that, it was the first time I did not experience that kind of soreness after an event like that. So to me, I learned the benefit of building your muscles, working out other ways and other forms, because it really made me a stronger runner.
I think your approach to running is very professional, as I know all the professional runners have someone providing them some weight training to make them a better runner. Not many people think like you, but your approach is always very professional. So I think it's also a great example for those who want to be more professional. That's all. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Okay.
much for your time and giving us
Oh, it was great.
information. Hopefully, maybe we're gonna do an episode 2 if people want to hear more tips or they have more questions. We will be in touch, and if you have time, it's always a pleasure for us to have you in our channel.
Oh, thank you, Kaya.